Just so you know, I don't want you as a father anymore. I already have one, her stepdad. He's my dad, and that's all I need right now. And I didn't hear from my daughter from that point forward for about 2 years. 2 straight years I didn't hear from her.
Welcome back to another episode of Daddy Issues. Our guest today is going to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about his story.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon. 41 years old. I am a divorced father of 3 children, 1 teen, 2 adults. Originally from New Jersey, Atlantic City area, and I just moved out to Wyoming in May of 2023 so I can be closer to my children.
Oh, when you got divorced, did they all move out there?
Well, we got divorced in 2008, so it's been a while since we divorced, but she got
Okay.
remarried. She got remarried and moved out here with her husband, but it was completely unbeknownst to me. Essentially, the way that went down was it was during COVID. It was March of 2020. The world shut down, people are getting sick, and there's protests, and we all remember that time. I get a phone call from my ex-wife, from my kid's mother, saying that she wants to go on vacation, an extended vacation to Wyoming with the kids to get away from COVID because it was bad in Jersey. My kids all wanted to go; they all begged me, so I'm not going to be, a jerk about it. I let them go because I'm thinking it's just a vacation. She initially told me it was going to be about 2 to 3 weeks. Well, she gets out there and 2 to 3 weeks go by, and I get another text saying, "Oh, well, we're going to stay out here a little bit longer because all their schooling is online now, so they can do their schooling here." I said, "Okay." I was already going through my own, nonsense, my own problems at the time, so I wasn't really thinking into it the way I feel like I should have. Um, I was going through a breakup with an ex-girlfriend at the time, looking for a job, all sorts of things. So I was preoccupied. So anyway, 2 to 3 weeks turns into 6 weeks, 2 months,
Oh,
and the
wow.
kids are happy. The kids keep telling me, "Oh, we like it out here," and this and that, and um, I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm not thinking of it again." Like I said, not too much. And fast forward to about 5 or 6 months later, they're still out there. And I get a text, not a phone call, not a letter, just a text from my ex-wife saying, "Hey, the kids like it out here. They have girlfriends and friends, and they want to go to school." So I registered them in the schools out here.
Hey, everyone. Quick pause here. If you're digging the Daddy Issues podcast and want to dive deeper, consider joining our Patreon community. You get exclusive content, behind-the-scenes stories, and even some live Q&A sessions. Your support helps keep the podcast running. Head on over to patreon.com/daddyissuesthetruth to join the family. Thanks for listening and supporting the show.
So I immediately start making phone calls to the court, to different attorneys, and the general consensus that I got was no judge, at least not in New Jersey, is going to be willing to uproot children from another state if they've been there for 6 months.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
man.
think, and it's hard because I think most men would have done the same thing that you did. They don't want confrontation. They want everything to be cool. Your kids are texting saying, "Oh, everything's going good. We're liking it out here. We'll be home soon." I think I would have done the same exact thing you did, but then to hear that she's now wants to stay and move there, and you have no say in that,
Right.
is wild. I
Yeah.
can't believe the court went with that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So they when I say they, I mean my kids and my ex-wife and her new husband right away start saying, "Move out here." Like it was nothing. Like, I'm just going to drop my life in New Jersey. I had a pretty, lucrative life in Jersey. I had a good job, a lot of friends, good things were happening in my life when I was in Jersey. And after about a year and a half of me hardly hearing from my kids. I was hardly talking to them because at the time they were still kind of young. And in order to talk to them, I had to go through my ex-wife. And I just didn't want to talk to her. That's what it was. So there was
Yeah.
a lot of weeks, a lot of months at a time that I didn't hear from my kids or didn't see them. obviously didn't see them. They were, halfway across the country. And it was 100% because I just didn't want anything to do with her. I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't want to text her. I didn't want to send her letters. I didn't want to do anything. I was so pissed off and so dumbfounded that something like that happened that, you know, it took some time before I finally buckled down and said, and swallowed my pride and flew out to Wyoming to visit them for the first time. Keep in mind, shortly after they moved out to Wyoming and my ex-wife got remarried, I got a text message from my daughter, pretty much saying, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but she more or less said, just so you know, I don't want you as a father anymore. I already have one, her stepdad. He's my dad, and that's all I need right now. And I didn't hear from my daughter from that point forward for about 2 years. 2 straight years I didn't hear from her. I
Dude,
would periodically send her a text message, and then, yeah, then one day I announced that I was going to be flying out there, and she started talking to me again. I flew out in 2022, I believe it was. Yeah, 4th of July weekend of 2022. I came out here, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that week I knew that I was going to move out here because I saw, my sons had baseball games that week. I met all their friends. I met, a lot of people around Wyoming. I saw Wyoming, like how beautiful it was with the mountains and the lakes. And we're about an hour and 15-minute drive from Yellowstone. So it's really beautiful. So I told myself and my kids, okay, I'll move out here. Uh, Give me a year. And 11 months later, I moved out here.
I mean, that's absolutely amazing that you did, but I mean, I almost started crying because that is heartbreaking for your daughter to say something like that to you. And I mean, how old are they? 10, 11, 12 years old?
At the time, well, right now they're 17, 18, and 20. So my daughter was maybe 15, 16.
15, 16. Yeah, I mean, that's an unbelievable thing to hear from your daughter. I wouldn't know what I would do. Um, so clearly they get along with their stepdad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the time they did.
Yeah.
At the time, I hear mixed opinions nowadays. Um, from what I understand, they're like on the verge of a divorce. Also, from what I understand, she's been cheating on him, which is really no surprise here because she cheated on me when we were married more than once with more than one person. Um, and then, shortly after we split up, she jumped right into a relationship with the guy that she cheated on me with. And then she cheated on him with me, which wasn't one of my proudest moments. But the point that I'm trying to make
Right.
is, she cheats. That's just what she does. I was having a conversation with my son not too long ago, and he said to me something that kind of broke me. He said he was talking about his girlfriend at the time, and he was worried that she was cheating on him because she was like on a vacation. And he said to me, Dad, I have a really hard time trusting the girls and the women in my life because I grew up watching my big sister and my mom cheat on everybody they've ever been with.
So he saw it happening when he was younger. He just, and that's wild.
Yeah,
Wow. Man,
yeah,
it's tough now because that's the culture. You know what I mean? Like these young kids just even when it comes just to sex now, it's like they're just fucking. They're just hopping from guy to guy, or like you'll hear about a bunch of different guys with a girl, and it's like normal. It's
yeah.
crazy.
But I agree with you 100%. It's sad. You know, it's not so bad out here in Wyoming with the young people. The culture out here is very, very different than it was back east. But yeah, when I was back east, yeah, 100%, you're correct. Like these kids, they're a little reckless, dare I say. It's sad. But and my daughter, that's just one example. She's always been in and out, pretty much ever since she was like 13. She'll just give up on me and like hate me for a few weeks to a few months to a couple of years, and then she's back like nothing
Yeah.
happened, like almost as if nothing happened. And I started noticing a pattern after a while, after, a few years, when she would come back into my life and like start being nice to me and kind of loving, it was usually because she wanted something. And then
Mm,
once she got that, like whether it was her birthday or Christmas was approaching, things like this, that was when she was nice to me. And then as soon as she got what she wanted, gone again for weeks, months at a time.
yeah, it's crazy too because if she only knew like actually how much you loved her, you uprooted your entire life in New Jersey because they went off, and so you moved. You totally moved. What are you doing for work out there? Because I'm a wildlife photographer, so I love Wyoming. I love the wildlife. I love all that stuff out there. So it'd be cool, but I can only imagine it's not only imagine it's definitely way different than New Jersey, or back east anywhere. So it's like I yeah, work. How's work out there?
Pretty good now. When I first moved out here, I was a carpenter full time. That's mostly what I did for most of my adult life, but I also am a photographer myself.
Oh, nice.
It was a side hustle for the last 16 years. I've been doing it professionally for about 15, 16 years, as a side hustle. And then when I came out here, um, put it this way, like when I was doing construction, I was so miserable and just unsatisfied with my job, and my hands hurt, my knees hurt, my back hurts, all these things that happen when you're in construction in your 40s. Um, and I decided last May, I quit my construction job and decided to go full time with photography. And in doing this, not only starting my own business, but I also decided to go back to school, to college for photography, because we have a really, really good, the college that we have out here, right in my hometown, is it's an amazing, like incredible school, and they just so happen to have one of the best photography programs in the country. So
That's
I
that's
applied,
awesome.
got accepted. I was even offered a scholarship. So that's what I'm doing now. I work as a photographer, mostly freelance. Sometimes I partner up with other businesses, and then I go to school full time.
What type of photography? Like portraits or what do
Mostly
you what
portraits. I'd say
okay.
people and animals.
Yeah.
I've always primarily been a portrait photographer, candids. Um, I like doing live action when it comes to candids, like whether it's sports, concerts, things like that. But I also do like weddings and family portraits and senior pics and things like that. And occasionally I'll do pets.
Yeah. How did you take that leap from, having a secure job, being a construction worker, and then being like, you know what? I'm just gonna dive in and I'm assuming it's kind of your passion. If it was your side hustle, like for me, it's my passion. Um, but how did you be like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna go for it.
I think I was just tired of my life because, well, my work life rather. I wasn't happy. I was making okay money. I can't complain there. Um, but I just wasn't happy, and it was starting to show in my work ethic. And it got to a point where my boss pulled me aside and literally sat me down and said, "Are you happy? Because you don't seem happy." And with that started this discussion, a very amicable, very friendly discussion between the two of us. Um, and I, expressed to him why I wasn't very happy. It had nothing to do with him, or the company. It was just I wasn't simply happy doing carpentry anymore. And he was the one who said to me, he was like, if I were you, I'd really try to focus on doing your photography full time because you're really good at that.
That's awesome.
So when he said that, something kind of clicked. And then that week is when I went and applied for school and got the scholarship offer and whatnot. Um, Aside from that, it was very difficult the first few months. The first like 3 months or so, it was rough, very rough. I was having limited photo shoots, so I wasn't making as much money. But then it started to pick up that fall when I started going to school. I started learning things in school, started getting better with my pictures, and then it went on from there. Now I work with a marketing agency, a local marketing agency, doing photography and video. Um, I do my own freelance stuff, portraits, family, weddings, things like that, and yeah, I it's going very well.
That's
So
awesome. So
yeah,
good to hear. Do your kids get to visit you now that you moved out there?
so they when my ex-wife proposed the idea of me moving out here, she told me, "Yeah, be involved with the kids. You're clean and sober now." Because long story short, and we can get into this later, but I'm in recovery. There was a brief period of time right around the first time my kids started being removed from my life, when she first started keeping them from me because of a guy that she was engaged to. I started drinking. Then, oddly enough, I get hit by a car, not because I was drinking, but I got hit by a car walking to work one day, broke 10 bones from head to toe, and I was prescribed three completely different opiates, got hooked. Really the main reason why I got hooked is because of the depression of not seeing my kids, not talking to them, not hearing from them, because at this point, I hadn't seen them for like a year.
Hmm.
Um, so that kept me in the grips of the opioid addiction, was not seeing my kids. And it became cyclical because, you know, I start drinking and then using opiates because I wasn't seeing them. But then she found out, and then that became even more of a valid reason why I couldn't see my kids.
Yeah.
So at any rate, back to what I was saying, she said, "Yeah, you're clean, sober now. Come out here. You can be involved. You can help out with the kids." And I moved out here, and for the first couple of months, I was going to their house on a regular basis, visiting them. And I didn't think that it was a problem because no one said anything to me. But they were not allowed to come to my house.
This is the perfect segue into talking about BetterHelp. We often think we need to tough it out, but seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Therapy offers a safe space to navigate life's challenges, improve relationships, and enhance emotional well being. Platforms like BetterHelp make it easier than ever to connect with licensed professionals online, offering flexibility and accessibility. Remember, taking care of your mental health is as crucial as physical health. Don't hesitate to reach out and invest in yourself. Guys, this is so important to reach out, talk to somebody, and better your life. Guys, you'll receive 10% off for the first month of therapy if you use this code betterhelp.com/daddyissuespodcast.
To this day, I've been out here for about a year and 9 months. My sons came over from my house, for just my sons, not my daughter. My sons came to my house for the first time right before this last Christmas, December 20th.
Wow.
So I was out here for like a year and a half before they finally visited me.
And there's no more court. You're not going into court because it would be in Wyoming and you're not even dealing with that anymore.
I've considered going back to court.
You only have a couple more years left with the kids, probably.
Yeah, my youngest is
Yeah.
17, so it's like,
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time coming up with an angle. Like,
Hmm.
what am I supposed to do? Go to court and just tell the judge everything, like everything I'm telling you, like this is what she's put me through, and all the abuse and all the chaos with the kids and not seeing them, parental alienation. She's still collecting child support for my daughter and my son. They both aged out of child support, and she's still collecting it. All she
Because they're
has
in
to do.
school.
No, my daughter is moved out, has her own apartment and two full-time jobs, but she's still collecting child support. And all she has to do is call the courts and say, "Hey, my daughter is older now, moved out, my son's 18," or what have you, and that's all she has to do. And that's what the courts told me when I called them. They said, "Well, we need to talk to her," and she refuses. She will not call, so she's still collecting child support.
But how, I mean, that's crazy. But how is she? If I mean, I understand the 17-year-old because technically there's a year left. But again, if she's out of school, has an apartment, whatever, then that should be it. But how your older one's older than is 18 up, right? I forget what you said.
Yeah, 18 and 20.
Yeah. So how I don't. That's crazy that you're still paying child support for him. Wow. Yeah, that's frustrating. The shitty thing is, I hear you about the alienation, and so many dads hear you about that, and it's like, it's you're just gonna blow money down the drain if you bring it to court and do that. You know what I mean? You might as well just try to get the best relationship you can with your kids, and hopefully they come over. But yeah, that's terrible.
You're right about that, about the money thing. It's so expensive. Family court is so
Hmm.
corrupt, and it's just all about money. It just drains your bank account. That's one of the many reasons why I'm very apprehensive about going back to court again, because I just feel like I'm going to lose. One of the reasons
Hmm.
I strongly suspect, pretty much to the point where I know why I have never been successful in court, is because her dad is a judge. Well, was. He just retired recently, but he was a
Ooh.
Superior
Yep.
Court family court judge. Long story short, I went to court 8 or 9 times just to get visitation back with my kids, to reinforce litigants' rights. I filed a motion, and told the judge, told the courts, I have joint custody. We have joint legal custody. I'm supposed to get them on the weekends, and she's been keeping them from me. And then the judge will just be like, tap on the wrist type of thing. Man, you can't do that. And nothing ever happens. There's never any consequences. And yeah, here we are years later, and she moved out west, and I followed her just so I can be with my kids.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one because one, she's getting all the insight of what to do and how to play, how to play the game. But two, his name probably carries some weight, you know what I mean, in the courthouse. So it's like, people probably, or the other judges probably know, of him. So they're probably, oh no, we're not gonna punish his daughter for anything. But I've been in the same situation. With bringing things up and refused visitation, all of that, and I'm like, you're just giving her a slap on the wrist and on to the next, and then it happens again, and then you have to wait another couple months, or at least because during COVID, that's when my situation was going down, and I had to wait a couple months to get back into court, and it was just like this ongoing process, and I was just getting so frustrated. Um, it is just it sucks.
Yeah, definitely does. It's been hell, man, since I met her. We first met, we were young. I was 20, she was 18. And it was just chaos from the start. And let's see, I think we were dating for about 2.5 months or so. And I decided I have to break up with her. Like, this is just, it's too much chaos. She's very controlling, very manipulative, talks down to me, things like this, and possessive, very possessive. Essentially, she is a textbook covert narcissist. Like, checks every box: manipulative, the gaslighting, the triangulating, the projecting. Every story she tells about herself, she's either the victim or the hero, but never the villain. Things like this. So I tried to break up with her, and she said, "I'm late. I'm pregnant. I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant." So she was pregnant, and because I am who I am, and I have sometimes, dare I say, crippling empathy, and a chip on my shoulder because I never had a dad. I said, you know what? I'm not going to break up with her. I'm going to stick around. We're going to get counseling, whatever we got to do to make this work. And I married her, and we ended up having a couple more kids. And yeah, it just our marriage lasted about 3.5 years. Shortly, I mean, immediately after we split up, and this is, as I mentioned earlier, because she was cheating on me. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, the cheating part. But she was always very controlling and abusive, physically abusive, and emotionally, mentally, verbally abusive, cheating on me, things like this. But right when we split up, she told me that my middle son was not mine.
No.
And which obviously is a direct confession to cheating, because we had him when we were married.
Right.
And I was told to get a paternity test, and I didn't, because I didn't want to hear the news. Like, God
Yeah.
forbid he wasn't my kid, because in my eyes, he's my son. I was there
Absolutely.
for his birth. I cared for her when she was pregnant. I changed his diapers. I raised him pretty much as I could when I was around, when she would let me be around him. So I never got a paternity test. So to this day, I don't know. But like I said, in my mind, he's my kid.
Yeah.
He's my son.
Oh my god, man. Wow. Yeah, that one. I mean, I think you made the right move. I don't know if I would have gotten a paternity test too, just for that reason. I wouldn't want to hear the news because if it wasn't, and it's like, but I've been here for him. I've raised him. This is my son. Um, damn. Does he know that or no?
No,
Yeah.
they
Okay.
they don't know. They know some things. They know what they've seen, what they've witnessed. But there's a lot of things that they don't know, especially my daughter.
Yeah.
Um, because it's like, well, how do I tell them? Now they're getting a little bit older, so it's at the point where I'm considering having a talk with them, and I've told them, whenever you guys want to talk about this whole situation, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, just come to me, because I will gladly tell you the truth, but I have to know that you guys want to listen to me.
Hmm.
I don't want to just shove it down their throats type of thing. Um, but yeah, there's so many things they just don't know, because sometimes, like, they'll get it, they get why I don't get along with their mom sometimes. Then
Yeah.
other times it's like she does this thing that's very common with narcissists, especially covert narcissists. They call it dog whistling. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the term, essentially what it means is narcissists will do things to provoke a reaction from you, but they'll either do something or say something in public around other people that will get on your nerves, but to everyone else, it just seems like it's nothing.
Right.
But they know that
It's
that
gonna
one
trigger you.
thing is going to trigger a reaction from you. That's why they call it dog whistling, because like you're the only one that hears it, type of thing, you know?
Yep.
Um, yeah, she does that often. Almost every single time we're all together, like if I'm with them at their house or at my son's baseball game or something, she'll do something to provoke a reaction out of me. And nowadays she pretty much never gets one because
Hmm.
I'm used to it. I see it coming. You know, in the past, I've reacted. Absolutely, shamefully, but yes, I've reacted in the past. But and that's another thing that the kids see is they'll okay, so for example, this past Thanksgiving, um, I was invited to their house for Thanksgiving dinner because they're not allowed to come to my house for holidays ever. I've had them for one Father's Day, one. My daughter's 20. I've had my kids for one Father's Day, one Christmas, and I think that's it. Never a Thanksgiving or anything else. So anyway, they invite me to their house for Thanksgiving, and the whole time everyone was just being rude, like not my kids, but you know, my ex-wife and her family. We eat dinner, and then my kids go to their rooms with their friends so they can play video games and hang out with their friends. And for some reason, I stick around for a little bit longer, and her family, my ex-wife and her family, start taking turns, like taking shots at me,
Hmm.
bringing up my past, things that I did 10, 15, 20 years ago, even before they met me, just things that they heard from my mom, things like this, bringing it up and just busting my balls about my past and different things about me. So, you know, it pissed me off, but I didn't react. I just got up and I left. Um, no harm, no foul, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me again because there's been all sorts of things that have been going on even since I moved out here. So it just so happens a few days later I get a message from a guy um, through my social media claiming that he knows for a fact that my ex-wife is cheating on her current husband. He had details, like vivid details, not only about her cheating, but about me, about my kids. Like he knew the whole situation. Um, so yeah, so I talked to him a little bit and he told me a bunch of different things. He reached out to um a family member of her husband's and told her all these things. So we spoke about it too, like me and his sister. So I took screenshots and I sent it to her husband.
Yeah.
I said, just so you know, this is happening. She's cheating on you. In hindsight, I don't know if that was the best decision. I think I that what I did was just simply rooted in emotion,
It was
you
more for
know?
you, probably. Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
and I'll admit that, and shamefully, but that's just what it was. Like I was so pissed off about what happened over the past, and then with Thanksgiving, that all of a sudden I have this opportunity to take a shot at her, and of course I'm going to take a shot back. So I
Hmm.
hit him up. I tell him all the details. She's cheating, this and that, and that was obviously the last time I talked to them, and that was shortly after Thanksgiving. I'm surprised my boys even came over a few days before Christmas. I'm surprised that that happened. I do know for a fact that, and this is only because my boys told me, that she tried to talk them out of it. Her
Yeah.
and my daughter, they were like, "Oh, you can't, don't go see your dad, don't go see that guy, whatever, things like this." Um, yeah, so that's how that went down. But yeah, that I think that's a good example of me taking a shot back, probably
Yeah.
when I shouldn't have.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. The tough thing too is like it's been years of alienation, and then now that I go back to your daughter's story and her saying that, it's like she's probably just been groomed for the last years. You know what I mean? Saying someone else is her dad and you're not my dad and all this stuff. It's like it's just like so heartbreaking because just like you said earlier, you grew up without a dad. That still affects you today. You can tell, and this
Absolutely.
is going to affect them forever. And your ex just isn't understanding that. Not even understanding it. She doesn't even care to understand. That's tough, man. If you could give some advice to dads that are going through something like this, like what's one thing that you would change in your situation if you could go back and change it?
First and foremost, I wouldn't have reacted as much as I did because in the early days, when we were together and right after we first split up, I let that divorce really come down on me, and it showed. It showed in my work ethic. It showed in my personality, my temperament, the way I handled my kids. I was honestly not the best father when we first divorced because of how everything went down and the things that she was doing and saying to me, to my face, behind my back, things like that. And then unfortunately, my kids suffered because I'm by myself. I don't know how to be a dad. I never had one. Basically, just short tempered, hot headed, emotionally dysregulated, things like this. I didn't have any patience. I yelled a lot. Nothing terrible. I didn't like beat the shit out of my kids or anything like that, but it was things that I'm still not proud of. So I guess to answer your question, don't react. Just keep your cool, especially when you're dealing with a narcissist. There's a term called gray rocking, to basically just remain calm and be neutral. Don't let them get to you. Do not let them get to you. And that would be like, I guess, my first piece of advice. Just keep
Yeah,
your cool, do what's right, go to court if you have to, get your lawyer if you have to, do what you need to do. Pick up your kids, pay your child support on time, things like this.
yeah, that's great. And I've actually never heard. That's very interesting when you said you didn't know how to be a dad because you didn't have a dad growing up. And I just thought about that. I'm like, holy shit, like you're right. Like you don't you're right, you never went through like it's just I never thought about it like that. Like you really don't have the experiences of like what a dad should be doing or what a dad, what the roles would be. I mean, obviously you see the TVs and the movies and all that stuff, but you never really understood it. And that's the first time I've heard that. And that makes so much sense now that you said that. I was like, wow. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and it didn't help that I had the mother that I had. My mother is, she's a lot like my ex wife. Um, hates men, big time. Always has, probably always will. She was very resentful of the fact that I came out a boy. She told me these things like on a regular basis, like wanted a girl. She hates men, so now my mom, I don't talk to my mom. I haven't spoken to my mom in like 7.5 years. Okay. I had to cut her out of my life because it was just too toxic. But she's friendly with my ex wife and they get together and they like talk about me and, the things that I do wrong and things like this and talk to me about or talk about me to the kids and all these things, and it doesn't help at all.
Of course. Yeah. But I mean, dude, I would say you're doing pretty good from literally coming from the addiction problem and everything. You've overcome all of that. You've moved out. You've lost everything in New Jersey, moved all the way out to Wyoming. You started your life over. I mean, you're trying to do right by your kids. I would say you're doing fucking great. There's some people who just can't get out of that
Yeah,
depression or slump, but you got to.
you do. You have to. And, for me, I noticed uh, all the bullshit that's going on with my kids, that's one of my biggest motivators now. I used to let it beat me down, and it still does. I'm not going to lie, from time to time, like the holidays, like Christmas, being alone, not seeing my kids,
Yeah.
that was really, really rough on me, man. Really, really rough. Dark time for sure. Um, but I use the fact that my kids are watching me and my ex-wife and everyone else, my kids' friends, their friends' parents, they're all watching me. So don't fuck this up is what I tell myself. My kids are watching. I want them to be proud of me. I want them to think I'm a good dad, I'm a cool dad, I'm a good person altogether. So I do, I'm always trying to accomplish something else and move up more and more and more. That's why I started my own business. I'm going back to school. I made Phi Theta Kappa my first semester, which is an honor society for students with the highest GPAs in the nation. I'm also serving on the Student Senate as a non-trad representative. So I keep doing all these things, and it is 100% because my kids are watching. That is my motivation.
Love
I
that.
yeah, I want them to know that like I can do this. I'm a good dude.